Hey guys, welcome to the high ground. My name is Fabio, and today I'll show you how to improve your everyday carry flashlight. Everyday carry flashlights, EDC flashlights, are a big topic, and that rightfully so, because they have so many advantages. They, of course, give light. You can use them as signaling devices. You can smash glass with them. You can even do exotic things like starting a fire with the battery. And even more, you can bring it everywhere you go, even in protected or high security areas like airplanes or airports, concerts. I never ever had somebody take away my flashlight, while I obviously can't bring a knife or something else to a place like that. Additionally to that, a flashlight can also be a tactical tool. I'm hesitant to call it a weapon because that will open a whole can of worms, but you can use it to defend yourself or somebody else. Of course, you can easily blind somebody with it so that he momentarily can't see very well, especially if you're in a darker environment. You can use it as a weight for punching, so your punches get harder. You can do the old hammer fist with it, and especially with the flashlights that have a little bit more, well, tactical rings here in front, you can even sharpen them up if you want to. I mean, I don't do it because I think it's not as good for my jeans, but you can do that. One of the downsides is, I mean, you have to hold on to your flashlight. So, for example, if you're outdoors or you're working on your car and it's dark and you had a vehicle malfunction and you're on the side of the road and you're working on it, you have to hold your flashlight and you have to open up stuff with one hand, etc. Also, if you would be in an altercation, I mean, you have to keep the flashlight in your hand. You can't open your hand because gravity, right? So as soon as you start opening your hand, your flashlight will fall down. And that's a bigger disadvantage. But I have a solution for you. And that's this one. Like this. You can see I have this bungee cord here. And you still can use your flashlight like you used it always, but it stays attached to your hand. This simple modification will basically allow you to take your hands off the flashlight. That means you can work easier with the flashlight in your hands. You can look for keys, put in a screw, whatever you want to do with it. In a tactical situation, you can't only punch and hammer fist somebody, but you can also smack somebody. And also in the same situation, you are able to grapple because you can hold on to somebody. You can still hold a t-shirt or a shirt, a jacket, whatever. And it makes it much easier to apprehend people. You don't have to punch them in the face until they are knocked out, what you would have to do if you only need to hold on to the flashlight. So it's also a much milder tool to use to just basically grapple somebody to the ground and hold him there instead of punching him. So that's also a very good thing. One other thing you can do, you can get it fully out of your way by just flipping it over your wrist. For this, you just hold it and you flip it over. Then it's outside, you have all your hands free, and you can flip it back in anytime you need it. Today, I'll show you how to craft this little modification. The only thing you need is heat shrink tubing, bungee cord, and of course a flashlight. Before we go a little bit deeper into the materials and tools you'll need, I'd like to give some credit where credit is due. The first time I saw something like this done was from a firearm instructor from the Austrian army. He did it with a sophisticated system of knots and tied paracord to his flashlight as a handle. So he didn't do it with bungee cord. And of course, it's good to have paracord with you if possible. But on the other hand, it's not as stretchy as bungee cord. and has therefore less applications. Then the version I'll show you today, I saw it the first time from GBRS Group, and that was also what motivated me to basically prepare my flashlight like it. And I think it's also not an original idea from them, but they took it, I think, from some Sayok Kali instructor. I don't know from whom specifically, but I'd like to give you those two sources. With that out of the way, let's look at the materials we'll need. First of all, let's look at the flashlight. For the flashlight, you have to keep a few points in mind. Of course, it's fully up to you what you will wear for your everyday carry. But one thing for this particular application is that you want to have something that is small enough to really fit in your pocket. There, the diameter as well as the length make a real difference, even if you wouldn't think 1 centimeter or ½ inch is much more, but it makes a difference if you carry it with you every day. If you also want to use your flashlight for self-defense, it should still have a diameter that allows you to make a proper fist. For example, with this flashlight, if I hold it, I still have a normal fist. It's just a little bit more weighted. You can see this one is a little bigger. If I grab this one, I still can somewhat make a fist, but it tends to shift my wrist a little bit to the outside already because it's so big. So this would almost be a flashlight that is too big for this application. The third thing you want to have, because you will likely hold your flashlight like this, is you want to have a switch, an off and on switch on the top of the flashlight. You would think that all of the flashlights that are sold as EDC flashlights will have that. This bigger one doesn't have one. It has a glass breaker at the end. So make sure that you have this, because otherwise if you hold your flashlight like this and you can't turn it on like this, but you have to, for example, turn this little wheel here, it makes the thing a little bit more arduous to actually switch it on and off. And the last thing, just for me personally, I pretty much like flashlights with rechargeable batteries. So I just like that I can hook it up to my USB cord, and then I know the next morning I will have a fully charged flashlight, or whenever I go out, I have a charged flashlight without needing to buy a lot of batteries. Maybe that's just me, but yeah, rechargeable batteries for your flashlight. If you don't know what to buy at all, this is the LED Lenser F1R. I like it quite a bit. I'll put you a link to this product in the description below. So if you really don't know what to buy, I like this one. Now, the next topic is the heat shrink tubing. And it's basically a little rubber or plastic tube that shrinks for, some only shrink half a diameter, some already shrink down to a quarter of their current diameter. And it comes in all different shapes and sizes. So I have a black one. The only thing that you really have to make sure is that it is wide enough in the unshrinked status. I have to think, okay, where do I have to get my shrink tube through? I know that I want to have it in this area where the grip is, but I have a wider area here and here. So then I have to think, okay, can I get this off somehow? Well, in this case, I can just screw it off, right? So, but I at least need the diameter of the widest part of the flashlight the shrinking tube has to pass. In this case, it's 1 inch shrink tubing. It's 25.4 millimeters for my European friends. And sometimes it comes in big, large pieces with a meter. I bought a little package that came with 10 pieces of 10 centimeters. So you don't have to consider anything else. Pick the color you like, make sure that the diameter is appropriate, and then you should be good. The last thing you'll need is bungee cord. I have here a big roll of bungee cord. It's 25 meters, or it was 25 meters at some point. And I like to use the bungee cord that has 4 millimeters of diameter. I find it to be the right strength for that application, but I also use it to fix my outdoor gear. For example, if you want to attach something to the outside of your backpack, there you often have bungee cordage. So yeah, bungee cord, nothing else to it. Pick the color you like, and then you should be good. Now for building it itself, you will need a few additional tools. One of them, of course, a pen. You will need a pair of scissors or a knife, and you will need a heat pistol, a hairdryer, or even just a lighter. I will use my wife's hairdryer. She was kind enough to give it to me for this little, well, crafting experiment, and then you are already on your way. Okay, with that all settled, I'd say let's get started with the actual build. In the first step, let's just disassemble the flashlight. Take anything that we can take off, at least from one side. Let's take it off, put it away. And that's already it for this little flashlight. I could take off a few things here in front, but that wouldn't help me in any way, shape or form. Now, after I have done this, I need to take the shrinking tube and put it over the flashlight like this. And I have to be careful and think about what I want to be covered by the tubing and what I don't want to have covered. Because sometimes you have a USB charger here, you might have a switch or something here. So this is all, or these are all things that you don't want to have covered. In this case, this is just a pure piece of metal. As you might have seen, the clip that was on here, I have taken that off. I will put that on later and tell you a few things about it. But now just put the shrink tubing on it like you want to have it. So for me, that would be something like that, as far forward as possible. And I just mark where I want to make the cut so that I can cut it in the right spot. Pair of scissors, and let's just make the cut. Et voila. And this is the part of shrink tubing that I will need. Now for the next step, you need to cut off a piece of bungee cord. And there is always the question, and this is the art to this whole build, how long does the bungee cord have to be, or how big of a loop you want to tie to the bungee cord? For me, I already made a few marks here because you just have to try it out. As you can see, if I put my hand through it, it cuts a little bit into my hand, but it still has some way to stretch further. So it's not super tight and no stretch is in the cord anymore, but it's also not super loose like this, because then it will just wobble around. You have to try this a little bit. For me, just that you can see it, that's the length I want to have in a loop. Now, this is not too easy because you will, of course, tie this together. And if you then pull on the cord, of course, there will material will slip out of the knot, right? Because you tighten it up. And so you have to try a little bit around and see what you can do and how it will best work for you. Okay, then now in the next step, let's put the shrink tubing over your flashlight and thread the cord through it. And this is also why you want to have tubing that is big enough so that you can still thread something through it, obviously. Okay, and now we can make the knot. The question is always which knot. I saw it with a double fisherman. I personally will use a figure of 8 knot just because, I mean, the double fisherman, you basically thread one piece around the other piece, so it's a very three-dimensional knot. With a figure of 8 knot, it has a little bit a bigger surface, but it's more two-dimensional, and I think that's more suitable for something like a flashlight handle, but that's maybe just me because I'm into knots and stuff. Okay, then let's tie this together like this. Should be good. And then thread this one through. And since we're only doing it once, let's try to be as tidy with our knot as possible. I know it's a little bit a little bit annoying tying a knot into something that is actually stretchy, but it's worth just being, doing a good job here. Okay, voila, here we have it. And now you can check. So I see that the part of where I have made the mark is still outside of the knot. So I have to for sure push it further in there and just thread it through more. Okay, tidy it up. That looks good. Okay, so to not have too much of the bungee cord slide out, I will of course close the outer parts first, and then I will make sure that the inner parts are really tight and close. And then I can try it on. If it still fits, I'd say that's perfect. And then the only thing I have to do is I cut off the pieces like this. You could also now take a lighter and melt those into each other, but I don't think that this is necessary. And then just pull it into the tubing. And there again, you need to have enough tubing left so that you can actually pull the knot into it. It needs sometimes a little bit convincing, especially because I have a lip here, but as you can see, here we go. The knot is in there. It's right in the middle of it. Perfect. Now, after we're happy what we have done so far, we can take the hairdryer and shrink the tube to the flashlight. That will make some noise, so I will not talk and explain much. Just make sure that especially if you use a proper heat gun or a lighter, that you don't put too much heat on the bungee cord. That's not as big as a problem with a hairdryer because it doesn't get that hot, but still be aware of that. And let's get this done. It even gets a little bit hot on your fingers. So sometimes in between give it a little bit of rest. There is still potential to shrink it down further, and I will do that over the next few minutes. Okay, this is done. The shrink tubing is neat and tight around the flashlight. Then let's reassemble it. So, of course, put the battery in. Now for the clip. You can put the clip in however you want. I prefer to have it in a position where it doesn't impede my grip, so not on the side of the rubber band, but also not directly on the opposite side, because this is where my fingers will close around it. So I would recommend something like 90 degrees to 100 degrees off from the rubber band. Okay, and now the cap. Here we go. Done and done. That's it for today. If you found this video helpful, please follow the channel, give us a thumbs up, that helps a lot. Thank you for your time watching this video, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.